Hello, everyone, and this is Amvi Mishra, and you are listening to the 22nd episode of our weekly podcast of Economics Hive, where we discuss the latest buzz around eco and its tricks. Today, I have with me two of my coolest classmates, Miss Himani Bagda and Miss Disha Malara, joining us. Welcome, girls. I'm so chuffed to have you two on board.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, we are glad to be here too.
Let's begin with a thought experiment. A year ago, when the lockdown began, you saw people and yourself running to the supermarkets to hoard daily goods. Now imagine if each one of you had decided to stockpile on all the essentials, raiding the shelves clean of its contents. Can you fathom the amount of time it would take for these goods to be replenished, or the amount of people who will have to go without these goods?
This is a clear example of the tragedy of commons. It can be applied to the COVID-19 pandemic still plaguing the planet. In its early days, people were generally wary of mixing with anyone outside their immediate family or leaving their homes less and working from home. However, as you mentioned, another result of the pandemic was that people began to stock up on food and utilities.
Yes, people likely assumed that everyone else would also store up as well. So, the only solution was to preempt this scenario and amass food before the next person could. Again, people were thinking logically and not collectively. And herein lies the relevance of the tragedy of the commons.
The tragedy of the commons is an economic problem in which every individual has an incentive to consume a resource, but at the expense of every other individual, with no way to exclude anyone from consuming.
Individuals take advantage of opportunities that benefit themselves, but spread out the harmful effect of their consumption across society.
Absolutely. This leads to overconsumption and ultimately the depletion of common resources to everybody's detriment. But may I ask any of you, what's so distinguishable about these goods?
In economics jargon, the tragedy of the commons may occur when an economic good is both rivalrous in consumption and non-excludable. These type of goods are called common pool resource goods.
Hey, but do you know who coined the term tragedy of the commons?
Oh, yes, I do. It was the ecologist Garrett Hardin who coined this phrase in 1968. And also, to avoid the situation of the tragedy of commons, he sought two solutions to this. One, resource regulation through government intervention, and second, privatization.
Yes, for years, Hardin's work was followed by scholars until Elinor Ostrom challenged Hardin's approach to the tragedy of the commons, arguing that individuals and communities could manage their own collective resources.
Next up, let us introduce our listeners to Elinor Ostrom. Elinor Ostrom was a political scientist who, in the year 2009, became the first ever woman to receive the prestigious Nobel Memorial Prize in Economic Sciences. Ostrom was awarded the accolade for her research analyzing economic governance with a focus on managing finite common pool resources within a community. These finite resources are referred to as commons.
Ostrom contributed plenty to the field of political science. Was her award-winning scholarly work in her book Governing the Commons, published in 1990, which depicted how communities can successfully share common resources such as waterways, livestock grazing land, and forests through collective property rights that best defined her legacy.
I read somewhere that she traveled across the world to spend time with traditional communities whose life and economy majorly depend on a natural resource base, such as the mountain meadows of Switzerland and Japan, the irrigation systems of Spain and Philippines, forest of Nepal, and fishing communities of Indonesia.
How cool is that now?
Eleanor saw it as if the entire culture had become individualistic, and the former scientific theories were obediently following suit, which treated all social phenomena as reducible to individual level phenomena.
Yes, indeed. Ostrom was challenging the received wisdom in her field of political science, starting with her thesis research on how a group of stakeholders in Southern California cobbled together a system for managing the water table and culminating in a worldwide study of common pool resource groups.
I sincerely think that the message of her work was that groups are capable of avoiding the tragedy of the commons without requiring top down regulation, at least if certain conditions are met.
That's right. I totally agree with you. By the way, do you remember that we actually learned the 8 core design principles that summarized the condition of Eleanor's governing the commons theory?
Yeah, how about we try and recall all the 8 principles? I remember one clearly defined boundary.
Proportional equivalence between benefits and costs, and collective choice arrangements.
Yeah, and I believe monitoring and graduated sanctions were two of them.
Okay, and I remember two more fast and fair conflict resolution and local autonomy.
And also appropriate relations with other tiers of rulemaking authority.
Yay, we did it! Now that we have understood the theory, let's count down the benefits of her theory.
Firstly, I believe that it promotes efficient allocation of resources, as each resource is put to use on the basis of the needs and desires of the community as a whole.
And secondly, with this, I think equitable distribution of resources becomes a possibility as earlier because of self interest, people with more wealth and materialistic availability had easier access to resources nearby. But with governing the commons theory, it ensures equitable distribution as it allows people with access to resources to pass this privilege to those who don't possess it.
On that note, I think it also reduces exploitation of resources. If we allow people to make use of resources on the basis of individualistic gain, resources will be used injudiciously and remain unaccounted for without any concerns of preserving them. But with the theory, it has amplified the importance of using these resources judiciously as they are under the joint ownership of the community and the government.
That is great. Moreover, the theory also relates to the problem of unsustainable waste of life because over the years, a large amount of ecological destruction has taken place as people used resources for their purpose without any consideration for other stakeholders or future generations. This theory nurtures the value of being a team player and emphasizes using and distributing resources to meet the current needs of the entire community and to sustain well for the future generations.
Eleanor traveled across the globe to establish another tenet of this theory, which is promoting local development. I would say the problem of government's failure to function well at the grassroots level can be resolved when the community itself is made the part of the solution. Moreover, it would allow the government to gauge people's issues firsthand and take in their suggestions and make them a part of the response team.
That's a great point you've made there. Lastly, I consider that this theory is only effective if there are enough checks and balances. And of course, this theory presents scope for punishing the free riders. When people make use of resources without the fear of being under governance and law, it would allow access to resources to people who will misuse it. But through this non tragedy of commons, highlights stringent action against such free riders.
Whew, with this, we come to the end of our enlightening conversation. But before we sign off, I would like to ask you for your concluding thoughts.
Well, I think trust has always been a central variable in study of ways to avoid the tragedy of the commons. Eleanor made trust a central variable for the theory of governance of the common. Trust in general, thought to support cooperative behavior, that is, trust in action, and social learning, that is, sending and receiving information. However, the development of analytical concepts and the empirical settings in which trust has been studied so far have not fully kept pace with the growing complexities of many common governance issues.
Agreeing to your opinion, it is not just the issue of trust in action, but many sustainability issues involve conflict over trust of information as well. For example, do we trust that information about resources or that free riders will actually be punished for extracting benefits unsolicitedly?
All right, that's a very good question to leave our audience with. I am sure they will dwell on it. Thank you so much, Disha and Hamani, for gracing this platform.
It's been a pleasure.
It's been a pleasure.
Wrapping up, today we learned that governing the commons has an important application in policy formation of developing countries, but its success depends upon the efficacy of government as well as people's enthusiasm to participate in community driven initiatives. Before we go, today's end of the episode quote is by Aristotle, which says, "What is common to the greatest number gets the least amount of care." Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit the bell button for more such weekly podcasts. I'm Amvi Mishra, dropping my mic for today. Thank you.